Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. We got a Super Bowl to talk about. We have the NFC and AFC championship games to talk about. We got a somewhat made up officiating controversy to talk about. We got Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes to talk about. You think Patrick Mahomes, is he going to surpass Tom Brady? Is that possible? Is he going to do that? Is Andy Reid going to surpass Bill Belichick? Is he going to do that? Is that possible? Do you put any blame on Josh Allen and Sean McDermott for Buffalo not winning that game yesterday, the very exciting game? Is Saquon Barkley the actual MVP of the National Football League? I certainly believe so. What's going on in Dallas? We knew that Jerry Jones was crazy. Now we know he may need, real help. He's hiring Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach, and Michael Irvin has something to say about that I kind of agree with. Pete Carroll, rumors that he may bring Russell Wilson to Las Vegas with him. And just to keep the fire burning, Angel Reese, you got to see this latest layup attempt from Angel Reese. She needs to get back in the gym and get off of OnlyFans or whatever website she's on, putting out those thirst traps. She needs to get in the gym. But we'll show you that layup. We'll laugh about that a little bit later. Shemeka Michelle is going to join us after Steve Kim and I chop up all that sports stuff. And we'll talk about Al Sharpton and his focus on DEI at Costco. We'll chop it up about that. I have a fire starter that I'm going to unleash later in the show on Stephen A. Smith. Everybody's celebrating Stephen A. Smith, and it's going to be awesome. We'll do that as well. And then we'll end the show with an interview I taped with Jake Long. That will be tremendous as well. So anyway, Steve Kim, welcome to Fearless. Welcome back to the show. Let's start with the AFC Championship game. Let's start with a win that I thought was exciting and non-controversial. When I logged off of Twitter and social media right after the game, I was like, yes, Chiefs won. It's the three-peat is in play. This was non-controversial. And then when I logged back into Twitter later, it's like, holy cow, everybody's melting down. The referees allegedly handed the Chiefs this game. It comes down to the spot on 4th and 1, which I do think was a bad spot. What is the score 22-21 at that point?
Yes.
And they go for it on 4th and 1, and people are melting down. It appears Josh Allen got the first down, and the guy running in from, I believe, the Chiefs sideline who had a bad angle, who had his back. One ref's got it past the line. Another ref that's coming in from the Chiefs sideline has it in front of the line. I don't know how he saw the ball, but people are melting down. I want to play, before I hear from you, let's hear from Dave Portnoy. Let's let him, he's quitting football over this spot. Play Dave Portnoy.
The biggest hose job I've ever fucking seen. First of all, this 3rd and 3 play, this spot is disgusting. Knee's not down. That's a first down. So that spot off. That's a bad spot right there by I don't know, half a yard right there. And then we're going to go for it on 4th down, which we all know what happens. But the fact that these refs, who decides where, first of all, this is clearly a first down. It's like not even fucking close. And then what is this? That one ref is way past it. Another one's a foot off. You just randomly decide where you're throwing the football. Like, what if the other guy got the spot? This is the most disgusting thing. I'm not watching football ever again. I quit football. I quit. First of all, he only has to get to the line. Are you kidding me? I quit football. It's not even close. I quit football.
You and I aren't quitting football, but Steve, where do you come down on this? Did the refs steal the game from Buffalo?
I don't think they stole it, but did they play a factor? We're also talking about the completion on that 50-50 catch, which may have hit the ground, which may have been actually intercepted by the Bills. Look, the calls impact one possession games with two really high caliber teams. And it seems to me that the Chiefs seem to get 51% of those calls when it really matters. Now, with that being said, though, Jason, the Bills are going to have a long off season, and they're going to have to look inward. There are some things that happened in that game that was really in their control. The officiating is never in your control unless you want to blow out a team by 38 points, which they didn't. This is the thing that still befuddles me about the Bills last night. Jason, I thought James Cook was rolling. I thought he may have been the best offensive player from Buffalo. He had 13 carries and only 3 receptions. In a game of that magnitude where you get a week off, that's not the time to put him on layaway or a pitch count. And I'm watching the game with Coach JB and one of his coaching friends, and throughout the second half, we're thinking, where's number 4? This is not the time to be resting a guy, okay? And the other thing that was interesting, I didn't like the play calling, Jason. There are times, look, I get it, Josh Allen ended up having a pretty good amount of rushing yards or rushing attempts, but a lot of those were quarterback sneaks. The other thing was, I give the Chiefs a little bit of credit. I've never seen a team consistently defend a quarterback sneak as well as they did. I thought there came a point in time, you may want to run a play action, you may want to run a bootleg, something else, because they are jamming you up on that left side. The other thing, and again, easy for me to second guess Joe Brady. On that last set of drives, Jason, where the game ended, if you're going to throw a quick screen out, I want my quickest, twitchiest, faster athlete. I don't give it to an older Amari Cooper. I don't. That's a play for Shakir, or you flex out Cook, and that could be a split-second difference between getting 2 yards and 6 or 7. So, yes, the referees played a role, but Buffalo, and one last thing here, Josh Allen in the first quarter, I felt like you had to be almost perfect or very good. Can't miss layups. He had a crossing route to Samuels that if he hits him, that's a 35-yard gain. Instead, he throws a low shot that goes incomplete, drive ends, Kansas City scores a touchdown on the next drive. In games of that magnitude, Jason, there are no little things. A thing is a thing. It adds up. It all matters.
All right, Steve, you unpacked a lot there.
That's what I do.
Hopefully I can remember all the, let me.
What I do.
Well, you could let me respond. We could go over them one by one, but let me hope I remember. You started out complaining about second half play calling as it relates to Buffalo. They come out their first possession of the second half, and they just run the ball downfield. It's like a 12-play drive where 10 of those 12 plays were runs. Their next possession, they run the ball again, and the drive is stopped on the controversial 4th and 1 deal. They were up, again, early or midway through the second half, they run it down their throat. Then late in the third quarter, early fourth, they get in position again, and they get stopped by what many people believe is a bad spot. They were about to really take control of the game. I can't blame it on, hey, they didn't run it enough, because once they got down and once they trailed, I'm sorry. I'm trying to win with Josh Allen. Yeah. He's my MVP. He's playing well. I'm going down guns a-blazing with my quarterback.
Jason, I don't disagree with any of that. But there are times that you have to think, not plays, players. Nothing against Ty Johnson or running Ray Davis, the rookie. If I'm going to go with the heavy ground game, I'm feeding Cook. I'm letting James cook. And there were too many parts of that game where thinking, James, it's like 30 degrees. There's no heat stroke threat here. There's no room to be tired. We are playing for the Hunt Trophy and then eventually a Lombardi. Why are you? I don't tap out. And again, maybe there may be an injury, there may be a usage rate issue, but that's a game where I'm thinking, who are my 3 best players? And you're consistently getting that ball. Also, Jason, look, the game plan was okay. They still scored 29 points. But you want to talk about some other decisions. Why do teams keep going for 2 early in games?
That's the decision.
I mean,
that's the decision.
Twice. Yes. So,
Yes.
I got to give JB credit. During the game, he's like, guys, I don't get this. If it's 14-12, I know what the chart says. But you know what the problem is? I've seen too many games where you're down by 2 in the first half. And instead of making it a 1-point game, knowing that it's a 1-possession game, most likely, when you fail to get that 2, those points here and there, they start to kill you.
Steve, I've had this may have, I can't remember when I came up with this. It may have been Blaine Gabbard's first game at the University of Missouri. I believe he was a freshman at the Dome in St. Louis. I think it's Missouri, Illinois, I'm pretty sure. And I think that's when I don't remember the details of that game. I just remember being impressed with Blaine Gabbard as a freshman quarterback at Mizzou. And I remember thinking about somebody went for 2 points way too early in that game. And I came up with a theory then. You never go for 2 until there's 6.5 minutes left in the game.
Yes.
That's or less. Or you never go for 2 until then. Everybody starts chasing points early, and then the next thing you know, you're off. Team kicks a field goal, and when you go back and do the math, you say, well, if they had just kicked these extra points, all they'd need is 3 points here, or the score would be tied here, or they would be ahead here. And when Buffalo went for 2 early in that game, I was like, this is crazy. And it did catch up with them, and that's where I blame Sean McDermott and all that. But I want to go back to the original point of this because it is turning into a crisis. And I know that Dave Portnoy is doing some shtick here. I know Dave Portnoy is doing some shtick here, talking about he's quitting football. But there is so much focus on the referees, it's bad for the game. There's so much discussion about the referees, it's bad for the game. There are so many judgment calls. The officials are too involved in the game for this not to blow up in the NFL's face, and they are creating the narrative that the games are rigged and fixed. Too many people are saying that ad nauseum. It's the WWE, and maybe they're right. But I do know one way to fix it. Take some of those judgment calls away from them, simplify the game so there's less reason for the refs to get involved with the game. And people think I'm crazy when I'm saying, hey, you got to relax the holding rules. You got to relax the illegal contact downfield. Those are just handing out points and first downs any kind of way you want. You got to de-emphasize the referees and emphasize the players. And last thing, and this will be controversial, or I don't know, who cares? I always apologizing for my opinions, but you got to remove DEI from this whole referee thing. All this focus, we got to get women in this one little refereeing position. We got to have this black dude and this and this and this. It all makes people think, hey, man, this ain't about the best and brightest. This is about some color code decorating scheme they want. It's not about competence. And so people are just looking for incompetence. Troy Vincent, my understanding, has been in charge of officiating in the NFL. Everybody reports in through him. He's one of these DEI guys that believes in it, loves all the little social media, the sloganeering in the end zones. And, he's the one tweeting out pictures of our first all-black officiating crew. They're destroying the league. They have an officiating crisis, and they have to address it. This is what it hurt the NBA, and now they're doing it to the NFL.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying Tim Donahue is better than any female official, but in all fairness, last night, none of those calls was made by anyone with a ponytail. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. But Jason, just going back to the
guy that came in and overruled from the Chiefs sidelines, a brother.
Well,
I'm not accusing him of incompetence. I'm just telling you what's fueling all these people to run. The game's fixed. The game's fixed. It's not about merit. It's not about competence. I'm just telling you, they got to cut it out. It's hurting the game. The credibility.
Jason, before
of the
that play, importantly pointed out on the Kincaid shuttle screen or that smoke screen that they ran or that bubble. I kept wondering, can't they review that spot? That was kind of mystifying how they went right to the next play. But Jason, I give the Chiefs a lot of credit, though. From the book of Belichick, before you win a game, you cannot lose one. They do not lose one. And if you look at their playoff runs, their Super Bowl wins, the playoff victories, they win a lot of one-possession games. They rarely blow people out. You know who did that also? The New England Patriots. And now I'm thinking about the Bills. I don't know if you blow this up. I don't know if McDermott loses his job. I think that'd be unfair. But it got me thinking, Jason, the Buffalo Bills remind me of a beloved team from our childhood. The Love You Blue Houston Oilers of Bum Phillips and Earl Campbell. They were really good, won a lot of games. Unfortunately, they were in I believe at that point, the same division and the same conference as the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, the Bills might be the second or third best team in the league, but they just, as Bum Phillips once said, can't kick in the door.
They can't. Steve, let's transition a little bit to Patrick Mahomes playing in his third straight Super Bowl, has a chance to win his fourth Super Bowl. I believe he's 29 years old, I believe. I think I read somewhere where Tom Brady was 37 when he won his fourth Super Bowl. Terry Bradshaw was 31. Joe Montana was 33. Is Patrick Mahomes, will he surpass Tom Brady as the GOAT of quarterbacks?
If he can sustain this run for another, 12 years? I mean, the Tom Brady run went from, 2001 all the way to about, 2018 or 19. And then he had a couple year stint where he was very productive and won a Super Bowl in Tampa. I think it's too early to answer that, but I will say this. If he is paired with Andy Reid, one of the greatest play designers and play callers of all time, I thought I'd never say this, but yes, he has a shot. Absolutely. I mean, Jason, that last third down call that he made when everyone thought they were going to run and they ran that little half rollout with the thing to the back, I said, man, the guts on those two. And it hit me. Those two are a dynamic duo, and they know how to win football games. They can win shootouts. They can win close games. They win one-possession games consistently, and it's not by accident.
The guts on those two, you're championing the guts of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. What about Jason Whitlock and Steve Kim? The guts on those two. I want people to talk about us the same way. And in order for people to do that, you can't ride the fence. Is he going to surpass Tom Brady, yes or no?
No. No, he's not. Because that means, 7 Super Bowls, 10 or 11 appearances? I mean, what would surpassing mean? What would surpassing mean in your view? Pure number of Lombardis? Pure number of Super Bowl appearances? Yeah. How are we doing that?
If he wins 6 Super Bowls in a 12-year span, because Brady won 6 in a 20-year span, I think, or something like that in New England. But if he won 6 in 12 years, and because what is Brady's overall Super Bowl record? 7-11 or 7-4? Is that right? Did Brady lose 4 Super Bowls? Hadley helped me out here.
Twice to Eli. They lost twice to Eli. 1 to Nick Foles and the Eagles. So that's 3. I think he's 7-3.
Did they? Did they advance to the Super Bowl twice in Tampa and lose once?
No, just once.
Or just once in Tampa?
The COVID year, and then they got blown out of the playoffs by Dallas. This is what helps Mahomes' case, though. There was a stretch of about 6-7 years where Brady and the Patriots went through a drought. From 2005 all the way to about 2011 or 12, they didn't win it. That's going to be interesting to see, when does this Super Bowl run end? But look, what is being overlooked here in Kansas City is that Spags defense. Much like Tom Brady, he had a great defense early on with the Willie McGinnis, Vrabel, all those guys, Harrison, Ty Law. That Kansas City defense cannot be overlooked, Jason. That it is no worse than the second or third best unit in the league.
It's not, but I want to go back. My point on Patrick Mahomes is I don't think he has to win 7 Super Bowls to surpass Tom Brady. If he can post a 6-2 Super Bowl record in a shorter time frame, retire. It's almost like Jordan going 6 for 6, and that's what differentiates him from Bill Russell or anybody else. He was perfect in the postseason or in the NBA Finals. I do think there's a way for Mahomes to get there without getting 7 Super Bowl victories, but I also think Patrick Mahomes has figured out that he's the one guy that has figured out, you know what, the only thing that really matters, they've changed football so much, that they've changed quarterback play so much. You can't hit them like you used to. Receivers get to catch balls over the middle different than they used to. And so there's only one stat that matters in terms of QB greatness, and that's, did you win like the previous guys? Did you win like Montana? Did you win like Tom Brady? Did you win like Terry Bradshaw? That's the only thing that's consistent. They give you an equation to figure out in the NFL. Can you figure it out and win Super Bowls? And he's answering that question, yes, 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 a lot of times. And I think if they beat this Eagles team that I think is very formidable, that I actually think is a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs, I think he's inching really, really close to Tom Brady. And by the time he gets his 5th Super Bowl, which I think if they win this year, I wasn't impressed with this team all year. They're going to be better next year. Isaiah Pacheco is a shell of himself. He'll either get better or they'll find a better running back next year, and these receivers will be better next year. He's going to surpass Tom Brady as the GOAT, I believe, because he has an offensive-minded head coach, and Tom Brady had a defensive-minded head coach. And I think the disparity between Andy Reid and everybody else in the NFL is larger than the disparity between Belichick and the people he was competing against. I think he's going to surpass him, and I think he's not worried about statistics anymore. He doesn't care what it looks like. He doesn't care how many interceptions he throws. All he cares about is winning because that's the only way to catch up with these other guys.
Jason, here's the case for Mahomes, and it's very compelling, and I may be changing my mind mid-segment. Kareem Hunt was taken off the waiver wire. I mean, Kareem Hunt was last in his prime before that famous elevator ride at the hotel. Okay, and you're right, Pacheco was banged up. I still don't think they have a true number one. Xavier Worthy is a young man, very fast, but you got to game plan him open, get him in motion. Schuster and Juju Hopkins have seen better days. They don't really scare anyone downfield. Kelsey is basically an eroded version of himself. Yet somehow, some way, with all these leftovers, the guy serves up delicious tasting W's. There is an art form to the way he quarterbacks teams to win. That must be saluted.
Steve, let me take care of a tiny bit of business, and then I'm going to come right back and we'll talk about the Eagles and Saquon Barkley and why I think they're actually the most talented team and should be favored in this Super Bowl. But let me tell you guys about Relief Factor. If pain is affecting your life, I have the perfect New Year's resolution for you. Make 2025 the year of feeling good again, the year of moving better, sleeping better, feeling more alive, and do it with Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, it doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Over 1 million people have turned to Relief Factor, including me. Feel the difference it can make in your life. Get their 3-week quick start a try. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day, and it just takes a phone call. Call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4-RELIEF. You can start feeling better in 3 weeks or less. And every day you feel better is a day you live better. Wherever you are, hurting, back, neck, joints, or muscles, make 2025 the year feeling good again. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4-RELIEF. I've made the call, got my shipment of my re-up at home, been taking Relief Factor. You should do the same. 1-800-4RELIEF. Steve, I think the Chiefs are going to really struggle here. This will be amazing. I think Philadelphia is the best team in football, and I think it because of this. I think they have figured out something when they went after Saquon Barkley and got him from the Giants. They figured out before anyone else, and maybe Baltimore figured it out too, they just can't get it done, but that, hey, man, this is a league that if you have the right running back against these now smaller linebackers that are being deployed in the NFL across the league to combat the 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, if you have a dominant running back against these 220-pound linebackers, you can dominate football. I think this Super Bowl clash is a clash between the running back and the resurgence of the importance of the running back position and the continued dominance of the quarterback position. And I can't bet against the Chiefs because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they got to be beaten before I can believe they can be beaten. But this, to me, is the year of the running back. I believe Saquon Barkley is the MVP. I believe he's the most important player in the league. I will be thoroughly impressed if the Chiefs figure out a way to stop this amazing offensive line paired with this amazing running back and a quarterback that knows how to take advantage of both of them.
When you play Kansas City nowadays, you are not only battling Mahomes and everyone else and Chris Jones, you're battling the mystique of the Kansas City Chiefs. Jason, I thought 2 years ago when they had their original matchup, I thought Philadelphia was the superior team, but somehow Kansas City lifted the Lombardi. This time around, I still think Philadelphia is the better team. But I just have doubts in my mind. Can they make all the plays and stay away from the mistakes? Jason, Saquon Barkley, once again, is showing that the MVP does not necessarily mean the best player. I don't think you can make an honest argument and say anyone is better than Barkley this year. He's a legitimate home run hitter, and he's fresh. And if there's ever a game you're going to load him up with 30 carries, it's going to be this one. I think he only had about 15 yesterday, but he made an incredible impact right off the bat. I want to talk about Jalen Hurts. I know his numbers don't always look great, but Jason, I think he's the perfect quarterback for this system and that player. His ability to keep the ball at the mesh point and his threat and his ability to churn out first downs, whether through the brotherly shove or just getting 6 yards when it's 3rd and 3, and to be tough and physical, backside ends cannot dive in. Because if he pulls that ball off the bootleg action, that's 30 yards. He's the perfect quarterback for Barkley. And I know there's always a little bit of grumbling that he misses a pass, doesn't throw on time. I get it. But overall, he's an incredible net positive for what they do. And I look at this Eagles front with Jalen Carter, one of the top 5 players in football. They have all the ingredients to win this game. But again, I go back to this. Can they defeat the mystique of the Kansas City Chiefs?
The reason I think they can is, and I think Washington was a little bit overvalued. But having said that, I look at that Philadelphia defense with Jalen Cooper, this middle linebacker, Braun, Jalen Carter, I'm sorry, yeah, I was thinking of Cooper DeJean. Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean as the slot corner, this Braun. Philadelphia's defense, really, really impressive. I think they're going to be able to, again, Kansas City's running game is on one leg a bit. You know, I think they'll move off of Isaiah Pacheco in the Super Bowl, and Kareem Hunt will start and get the bulk of the carries. I think that was clear as day yesterday. That's the move. But I just think Philadelphia's front seven is going to be able to handle them. What Philadelphia did to Washington, punching the ball out the way they did, turning them over the way that they did. Chiefs, I think they will be able to create some opportunities, create some defensive stops through turnovers with the Chiefs. I'm sitting here talking like I think the Eagles are going to win, because I kind of do, but I just can't go against what I see week in and week out. Virtually every week this season, I thought, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to get beat. And they won every week except for one. I mean, it was, and then they get to the playoffs, and now they become really impressive. And I don't think these wins are as fluky as the regular season, but if they beat this Eagles team, and then they went 16-1 during the regular season, or did they lose the second game at the end when they quit? I think they quit and lost the second game. Yeah, they didn't play at the end of the year and
Denver.
Lost that season finale to Denver. Yeah. So they've won. They won 15 games in the regular season. They've won 2 games now in the post. They're going to finish 18-2.
Well, Jason, I know we can preview this game. Yeah. We have a lot of time, but there's no doubt Spags is a brilliant defensive mind, right? There's no doubt what they're going to do. They're going to load the box up. I mean, any good defensive coordinator says one thing: who's your best weapon? What do you do best? We're going to take that away. You have to play left-handed. So they're probably going to load the box, and they're going to say, we're not letting Barkley run wild. We're going to put them in positions where Jalen Hurts is going to have to make some throws. The caveat is you got Devontae Smith, the sprinter, and A.J. Brown. That is a dynamic duo. And I know there's been some disgruntled stuff with A.J. Brown, the bookworm. But if I'm Kansas City, I say to myself, we are going to contain Barkley, and let's see if Hurts' arm can take them all the way. I think that's going to be the key matchup of this whole game.
They got a tight end, too, in Dallas Goedert that will be effective. It's going to be a tremendous Super Bowl. Hadley just texted me. The Chiefs are 23-2 in the last 25 games, including playoffs. That's an amazing number. Geez. Hadley, text me what the spread is on the game, by the way.
Chiefs 1.5.
We've already covered Chiefs 1.5.
Yeah.
We've already covered we don't even need to say any more about Saquon Barkley being the MVP. Let me move on to the other football story that amazed me beyond the 2 playoff games. I'm shocked the Dallas Cowboys are hiring
really?
Brian. I'm shocked. Brian Schottenheimer.
Why?
He's been a mediocre offensive coordinator everywhere he's gone. Everywhere he's gone, he's been a mediocre offensive coordinator. I remember Brian Schottenheimer as a kid in Kansas City. I covered Marty Schottenheimer. I mean, he was a decent high school quarterback, Brian Schottenheimer. I followed his entire career. I don't understand how Dallas could they lost Dak Prescott, but to have that bad of a season and then you hire someone from within, it blows my mind. But let me let your boy from the U, Michael Irvin, break it down. He broke it down better than I can, and I know you'll have a reaction to this. Let's listen to Michael Irvin.
Brian Schottenheimer, I don't know the man, but I do know man, and I know man. I know when you are within an organization and you get promoted within that organization. And I know that the Dallas Cowboys right now, they don't have curfew. So let me give you that. They don't have curfew. They don't have discipline. We were 4th in penalties this year. So how do you fix that? You go and be more disciplined or be more of a disciplinarian? How do you do that when you're coming from inside? Because when you start saying, hey, you jump off sides now, we're going to fine you. You jump off sides, we're going to penalize you. Jump off sides, you're going to have to go do some running. And everybody going to say, oh, man, you're going to start acting like an asshole after we got you the job? That's what you're going to do. If you say, okay, we haven't been meeting at night. We leave Saturday afternoon at 1:30, people, for a 3 p.m. Sunday game. I'll see you at the game on 3 p.m. Sunday. Do y'all understand? Everybody else, they show up at a hotel Saturday night at 6 p.m. This is what we did. We have dinner till about 7:30. Then we're gonna go have meetings and watch film till about 9. We'll get us a snack. About 9:30, we're gonna go in the room, play cards, hang out for a minute. The whole damn while we're talking game plan and what we must do. It's a promise made, one man to another. I will get my damn job done today. That's how you win championships. And you make the promise over and over to each other. You make it when you're with each other. And if you're not creating these times together, when the fuck you gonna make these promises? You talk all off season about money. You don't talk about winning. And then when it's time to be talking football, you got everybody home, sitting at home. Now Brian's going to come in. What is he going to say? We're going to start showing up at the hotel. We're going to have curfew. They're going to say it again. Oh, man, what you doing, dog? Oh, okay, nigga, you going to change like this on us? This how you going to change? Oh, we got you the job. That's what they're going to say. And now you're risking losing the whole locker room. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm telling you, I know man. And I do know this. I know how to win championships. I got hardware everywhere. All my shit ain't fake. People put, whatever they put back there, that's all real hardware. Ain't a piece back there fake. And it comes from everywhere, on all levels. Don't tell me I don't know how to get it. And I'm telling you, that ain't how to get it. It take focus, man. It take this dedication. And it has to come from the top. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do you do the same damn thing and get something different?
Woo!
This is why
Woo!
I've always loved and respected Michael Irvin. And I'm talking about once I met Michael Irvin and got introduced to that Michael Irvin, I was like, oh, now I get it. I used to be a big-time critic of Michael Irvin. Then I engaged with him, got into a deep comment. I was like, holy cow, this guy, there's substance, real substance to Michael Irvin. And I know he used to have a substance abuse problem, and, and he's a tiny bit flirty. But in terms, there's a real substance to Michael Irvin, and I think he unpacked a lot of truth in that video there. Your thoughts, Steve?
Michael Jerome Irvin. That was the R-rated playmaker, not the church version of Michael Irvin. That seemed to be a shot across the bow of one Jerry Jones. Because obviously he dropped some things there, and I'm like, is that the way this organization has been run? But Jason, what have I been telling you from the duration of our partnership here at Fearless? This is what Jerry Jones wants. Why are you surprised? He does not want a strong coach that's going to overshadow him. Even with the success he had with the great James William Jimmy Johnson and the good run with Bill Parcells, it's obvious to me he wants a Shan Gailey. He wants a Dave Campo. He wants a Jason Garrett. And I have to ask you this, and all these Cowboy fans out there watching us, were you better off just keeping Mike McCarthy? Because you're right about Brian Schottenheimer. He does not come in with the resume of his father, Marty, who had that gleam. Had that gleam, gentlemen. Brian Schottenheimer does not have that gleam.
Steve, where my mind goes when they hired Schottenheimer, and then I watched Michael Irvin, and then I watched the Chiefs move in position to do a three-peat that's never been done in the NFL. And my mind goes to, like, Jerry Jones was in position to do this with the Dallas Cowboys and Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and Nate Newton and Larry Allen and it just, like, they were in position to do this, and they was like, nah, I'm good, my ego, I need to satisfy, I need more credit. He threw away a dynasty so that he could get more credit. And I'm just, my mind is just blown. It's like Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame, and he's celebrated as this great owner and innovator. And you almost, Steve, did you see the stat They've got the longest streak in the NFC of not advancing to the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones has put a Hall of Fame career together and the worst owner in the NFL career together as well. He's got two separate careers.
So he's basically Dan Snyder, who got lucky in the beginning. I mean, let's go back to that, Jason. People forget the Cowboys go back to back. And by the way, Jerry Jones nearly ruined that second Super Bowl by not giving Emmitt Smith his money, because that season was about to implode. And if Charles Haley doesn't threaten everybody after that second loss to Buffalo, I'm not so sure what happens. But go back to 93. They go to Atlanta and they beat the Bills again. People forget Jimmy Johnson was on his way to actually coaching 94. It was a couple months later at the owners' meeting. Everyone in the NFL is there. It's a late night. Everyone's drinking. Jimmy is there with a couple of staff members and other people that had been dismissed or had left Dallas. Now, this is a famous story. So Jerry Jones saunters over there thinking, I'm going to have a toast there with my boys. And half the people there at the table did not like Jerry Jones anymore. And I think Jimmy had kind of had his share. And then when Jerry Jones proposed a toast and everyone left him hanging, and this is what set it off, he huffed off and he basically told this reporter, I got something for you. And he uttered the famous words, I can get 500 coaches to win a Super Bowl with my team. Well, they did it in 95 with Barry Switzer's team, which was really Jimmy's. Yes, that is the ego. Jerry Jones places the credit that he gets over actually winning. I've thought that for a while, and I think it's more crystal clear than ever.
Steve, people think that it's some sort of shtick when I come on here and talk about how stupid I am. And it's not shtick. It's life has taught me, like, wow, like you've really done some dumb things. And when I figured out, like, humility is rewarded. And so it's like a reminder to me to never let your ego get out of control. It will make a fool of you. And so that's why I talk about how dumb I am. And to see, and again, I don't have billions of dollars like Jerry Jones, and so maybe that doesn't, my ego is more easily tamed than a billionaire's. But Lord have mercy, 30 straight years of not accomplishing what you want to accomplish, being a joke turning the Cowboys into a joke of a franchise, just the butt of a joke. You got the longest streak in there. This man's lack of ego control and lack of humility is mind-blowing. It's like a biblical story.
Yeah. Jason, the older I get, you know what I realize what true wisdom is? Knowing what you don't know. That's the truth. And then what is the true art of leadership? Delegation. I've said this to you before, and I'll die on this. The greatest owner in American professional sports history, at least in the modern day, the late, great Dr. Jerry Buss. And for one reason, he understood that he wanted showbiz, but he needed basketball. And he married those two by saying to Jerry West, or really Bill Sharman, and then Jerry West, and then Mitch Kupchak, he said, guys, I know very little about basketball, but I kind of know how I want it to look. So I'll do the other things like the Laker girls, the promotion, certainly the Forum Club. But he let Jerry West and his management have basketball autonomy to a point when he tried to override Jerry West one time by trading James Worthy after the 86 year. Jerry West said, okay, you make this trade for Roy Tarpley and Mark Aguirre, I will quit. And you know what Jerry Buss said? Forget it. You're the basketball guy. You have, and by the way, best movie ever made because it extended the dynasty. Again, in life, you have to know what you don't know.
There's a lot of, and Steve, I know this isn't your jam, but this morning I was looking through the Bible for things about wisdom and how wisdom is rewarded. And you can find a lot in Proverbs. But then I went a cut deeper, and I want to read something from Philippians. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. And I say that because Jerry Jones calls himself a Christian, and he thinks of himself as a wise man. And he's not being Christian here as he runs the Cowboys, and he's not being very wise. It's this man needs humility so bad, and his lack of humility is making a fool of himself. And to be in your 80s and to be this unwise, that's what blows my mind. I couldn't imagine being in my 80s and being less wise. But sometimes you get old and you think you know everything, and you really don't know anything.
Jason, it wasn't that long ago he told a radio guy that he does a show with, I could have you fired. Remember, he got really upset over a question, and on the air, he basically threatened the guy. And then he made a declaration at the end of the year, well, I'm going to remain the GM. It's my team. I'm the general man. You talk about being humbled. It got me thinking about George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner had great success early on. I never forget that his opening press conference, I've read this, he actually said, well, I'm just a shipbuilder from Cleveland. I'm going to stay out of the baseball. That lasted about 10 minutes. But he won world championships early. But then they went through a drought before they won a lot of championships. And Jason, you know what people forget? He literally got suspended by Major League Baseball for about a year or two. I believe it was the Howie Spira, Dave Winfield spying incident. And so MLB basically said, you're going to own the team, but you're gone. And what happened during that process is the Yankees ended up doing business a different way. They rebuilt their farm system. And instead of just going for the short-term fixes with free agency, they actually built a foundation. So when Steinbrenner came back from the mid-90s on, they were a dynasty. I don't know of any spying scandals that Jerry Jones has done, but this is basically what they are. They're basically Dan Snyder with some early Super Bowls in the 90s.
Yes or no? Would you be more optimistic if they had hired Deion Sanders?
Yes. Believe it or not, yes. Because it takes some of the spotlight off of Jerry. Deion is a prideful guy. He's not there to just collect a paycheck. And it'd be a story. And at least for 1 year, I believe the players would play very hard for Coach Prime.
I happen to agree, and I can't believe that I'm saying that. They would have been better off hiring Deion Sanders. That would have humbled Jerry, and Deion's ego would have taken over. But those two going back and forth may have kept both egos in check, but it would have been a better hire. I got to believe. Michael Irvin laid it out there. They needed an outside voice. They don't have one. The owner is the ultimate voice there, and the owner has a sweet spot for every player that makes a big play and wants to overpay him and blah. Anyway, Steve, I'm going to take care of I want to tell some people about a movie I want them to go see, and then I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll let you go. But, hey, I hope this weekend you took the opportunity to go see Brave the Dark. How far will a teacher go to save a kid on the brink of losing everything? From Angel Studios, the studio behind The Sound of Freedom, comes Brave the Dark, an inspiring true story about a troubled teen struggling to survive in a world that's let him down. Haunted by torturous childhood memories, Nate Williams finds himself engulfed in darkness. When his drama teacher, Mr. Dean, bails him out of jail and takes him in, Nate must confront his past before it leads to his own destruction. Brave the Dark reminds us that one meaningful connection can change everything. This powerful film will leave you uplifted and inspired as it shows the strength of compassion and the impact of never giving up on someone. I encourage you to go see Brave the Dark in theaters right now. Get your tickets today at angel.com/Jason. That's angel.com/Jason. Steve, there's a reunion perhaps being planned in Las Vegas. It's not Sonny and Cher. It's not Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. It's Pete Carroll and potentially Russell Wilson. If you're the Las Vegas Raiders, do you allow Pete Carroll to bring Russell Wilson, dangerous Russell Wilson, to Las Vegas as part of a temporary rebuild in Las Vegas?
Hold on. So are they at least Peaches and Herb? reunited, and it feels so good. And maybe if it's, but like you said, if it's an Apple One job, temporary, him as a bridge quarterback, I don't mind it. Look, we know the limitations of Russell Wilson. Okay, he's on the tail end. He's no longer in his prime. But sometimes you have to understand, what are your options. And let's be honest, Jim Plunkett and Ken Stabler ain't walking through that door. They don't even have a Rich Gannon in waiting. So if that's going to be the guy that gets you through the 2025 season, and if Pete and Russ have patched things up, and I read something that they're basically seeing eye to eye now, yes, I think that actually works in the short term.
I don't like it. I do know the logic behind it. I just happen to think Russell Wilson is completely washed. But here's what Pete Carroll thinks. Yeah, the way that thing ended in Pittsburgh, and I know he didn't have the best coaching, there, but I think Russell Wilson is past his expiration date. But here's what Pete Carroll's thinking. The Russell Wilson he had the last 2 or 3 years in Seattle was a Russell Wilson that was full of himself and wouldn't bend to coaching in terms of, hey, man, Russell, we know exactly who you are. Do these things. Here's what you're good at. Avoid these things. Pete believes, and probably rightfully so, Russell was full of himself, thought he could do more, and started doing things that really didn't play into his strength. Now Russell Wilson's been humbled, Denver, Pittsburgh, those situations, and Pete believes, hey, now I got Russell Wilson back where I want him. He'll do the things that I know and we know he can do. He'll avoid the things that he can't do. I just happen to think there's a lot more things now that Russell Wilson cannot do any longer. And Pete is going to find, and this is, I think that short quarterbacks, when they run out of, when people have figured them out, they figured them out. There's a Drew Brees once every generation. There's a Fran Tarkenton once every generation. But these undersized quarterbacks just don't have the lifespan, to me, of, these 6'4", 6'5" guys. I think Russell Wilson's expired. I don't think this would be a good play. I think, it's better in Pete Carroll's mind. It's like, hey, better than Gardner Minshew, better than Aiden O'Connell, better than, I can't remember who else did they play this year? I can't remember, but they tried everything at quarterback. And yeah, maybe Russell Wilson's better than that, but he's false hope, and in my view. And so, bad reunion here. I got one more thing for you, unless you got a final thought on that.
I'm going to say this again. For 1 year, he's a bridge. He's not your foundation. He's not your future. Now, again, it'll be interesting to see if the Raiders do anything in terms of the draft, of moving up, making a big move. I don't know how many parts they have. Do you leverage Max Crosby to get into the top 2? But, Jason, there's not a lot of options. I mean, look at those names you just stated. That is flotsam and jetsam. I would still propose, and this is just my opinion, that even this 2024 version of Russell Wilson is better than anything the Raiders have trotted out there or will trot out there in 8-9 months. Again, we're talking about a temporary employee here. He's Apple One.
Steve, final thought. This is more for fun. This is for giggles. But there is a point to be made here. I have made the calculated decision I'm not going to partake in this unrivaled 3-on-3 basketball league. I think it's a joke. I think it's a mistake.
No.
People barely want to see women play 5-on-5 basketball, and now we want to see them play full court 3-on-3 basketball. But I will, if forced or if given the opportunity, I will partake in a highlight or two from the unrivaled league.
Yeah.
And when this came across my Twitter feed, I'm like, because it's profound. Angel Reese is the most unskilled basketball player in the history of basketball, in my opinion. She has no skills. She has energy. She has an attitude. She'll rebound you the basketball. Great. Nothing else. She has not, and she's got self-awareness. She knows that she's not a very good basketball player. That's why she spends so much time half naked and taking pictures and promoting things that have nothing to do with basketball. And now she knows it to the point that even when she's on the basketball court, she's aware, like, this ain't really my thing. Let me get this hot potato out of my hand and to somebody that knows what they're doing with it as soon as possible. You got to see this clip. This is a 3-on-3 basketball game. Angel Reese strips a player at one end, runs down court with the basketball, 3-4 steps ahead of everybody, has an easy layup, and throws it to the girl behind her.
It's unselfish.
That's
unselfish. Come on.
That she don't want that smoke, Steve. She wants nothing to do with having to shoot the basketball. And I give her credit. It's self-awareness. Play the clip one more time while Steve's talking.
Well, look, every time I see stuff like this, it just shows me Charleston White may have had a point. And, nothing unrivals my disinterest in this league than that. The only thing that would get me to watch consistently or listen, they need to bring in Charleston White as like the color analyst. That would be hilarious. I might watch every game that he's on. Okay, he'd be like a more profane version of Charles Barkley. But Jason, I also read one of the other players, Dejonae Carrington, that fine lady. She wore some sweater with the message, and it just got me thinking. Once again, this whole culture of the players, the media, the people that defend it, the players surrounding it, the players that are the coaches, they are the most unlikable culture in all of sports. They want to point the finger at everybody over why nobody cares about us or likes us. That's why they just keep giving us more evidence over and over again.
Dejonae Carrington, the young lady that tried to stab Caitlin Clark in the eyes, and who did, is the young lady in the Unrivaled League that wore the F Donald Trump sweatshirt. They allowed it. I can hear people saying, well, hey, the MAGA crowd was wearing F Joe Biden, FJB, but were NBA players, were athletes doing this at games, or were these people over Twitter that were trolling Joe Biden? Dejonae Carrington, out of pocket, out of line. This 3-on-3 deal is stupid and damages the brand of women's basketball. I'm saying this in all seriousness. Angel Reese has self-awareness, and that will be a good thing. If she just wants to be the Dennis Rodman of the WNBA, she can have at it. She can go at it. But this let's hopefully end this whole fake double-double deal where they're feeding her the ball at the end of the games and she's getting garbage buckets. Let's leave all that alone. Just be a rebounding machine. Again, who other than Dennis Rodman? Give me another example of a guy that's a rebounding machine. I don't know why I can't.
Ben
Buck
Wallace.
Williams. Remember Buck Williams? Ben Wallace.
What an insult to Buck.
Buck
hard-nosed,
right.
tough
That's
four, good player, galvanized the Portland Trailblazers in the late 80s, early 90s. Buck, hold on, just before I get it. Buck, I want to apologize for Whitlock. You were a great player. You had a great career. You were a fine professional. I just want to apologize on behalf of Fearless and Jason Whitlock. Good grief. I will get off.
Andre Drummond. Call her Andre Drummond. How about that?
All right, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Joakim Noah? Is that
No, yeah, Noah had a funny looking shot. He had a funny looking shot.
Joakim Noah, but at least it would fall. Anyway, Steve, great job as always. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Guys, me and Shemeka are going to talk a little Al Sharpton here for a second. That'll be a good conversation. Don't miss what I'm about to do to Stephen A. Smith. I'm about to destroy Stephen A. Smith. Once again, I need to remind conservatives of just who Stephen A. Smith is. Conservatives are running around, oh, did you see Stephen A. Smith on Bill Maher? Oh, he's terrific. He's this, he's that. I'm going to crush Stephen A. Smith again for my own enjoyment and for your edification, and just as a reminder of who Stephen A. Smith is and why you shouldn't fall for the okie doke of Stephen A. Smith. I'll do that after I talk with Shemeka, and then we'll end the show with an interview that I did late last week with Jake Lang, one of the January 6th prisoners who's been sprung thanks to President Trump. We'll play that conversation at the end of today's show. Don't go anywhere. Shemeka Michelle and a conversation about Al Sharpton. Next. If Ryan Clark weren't involved, Lamar Jackson would probably be the most popular athlete in all of sports, or at least second behind Caitlin Clark. but it can't happen because he's been turned into polarizing Lamar Jackson. And that's by design. There are no accidents here. Listen to, I found this clip, I just stumbled across this clip of Ryan Clark talking about Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Play slot number 8.
Better quarterback is Jalen Hurts. If you're asking me who the more successful quarterback is Jalen Hurts. If you're asking me who the quarterback is that I can rely on more, that I believe that is more consistent, who I count on more in the biggest moments against the biggest teams in the best games, it's Jalen Hurts. Those things are not a conversation. Those things are a part of resume. Those things are a part of history. Those things are a part of film.
That's just an ignorant statement by Ryan Clark. He's being intentionally racially divisive. And I know Ryan Clark has said to others, hey, why do I praise Joe Burrow? Everybody throws a curveball once in a while, and Joe Burrow played at LSU, where Ryan Clark played at LSU, and he supports everything LSU. But you throw the change, hey, I support it. And today, or I think I saw him on Inside the NFL yesterday, making some positive comments about Josh Allen. All right, welcome back. Shemeka, Reverend Al Sharpton caught the Holy Ghost and went out to Costco and is supporting Costco because they're supporting DEI initiatives. Al Sharpton wants us, he had a buy-in or a boycott in or some kind of, he had some sort of event. He took 100 people to go shop at Costco because they're going to support, DEI. And so Costco gave Al Sharpton a check for this publicity stunt, is all I can think of, because I've never seen Al Sharpton go to some fried chicken joint in the neighborhood and, hey, let's have a buy-in here, or some beauty salon that some black woman owns. Let's have a buy-in here. Never seen him support a black-owned business, but he's out supporting Costco. I think we have a clip here. Let's play SOT 7 of Al Sharpton backing Costco's DEI initiative.
Corporations came forward and said, we're going to do diversity. We're going to do this because race needs to be dealt with. And for Donald Trump to be able to cancel a commitment they made is an outright affront to the black community, brown community, LGBTQ, gay community, and women that they committed to. So that is why we will stand with those that stand with us. Costco's immediately stepped out and said that they will not back off DEI. On last Monday, Martin Luther King holiday, I announced that for 90 days we're going to research the company that we find that has made the most affront. We will call a boycott. But today we are calling a buy-in. I have bought 100 people $25 gift certificates. We're going shopping at Costco because they've stood with us. People that stand with us, we will stand with them. People that do not stand with us, let Donald Trump stop us in 90 days from boycotting them. We will not pay to be rejected and disrespected. Thank you.
He brought 100 people, gave them $25 gift certificates to buy, what, 4 dozen eggs at Costco? I 4 dozen eggs and 2 and a pack of condoms. I don't know what they sell at Costco. I got my mother, I think, has a subscription. I don't. Anyway, your thoughts here on Al Sharpton and his buy-in to support DEI.
Jason, I saw this and I just thought, look at these Negroes. They make me so angry. Black people comprise 4% of DEI in the workplace. So what are we doing? I think it's whites, Hispanics, Asians, unknowns, and then Black people. But we are the ones that are out doing all this marching because that's exactly what they looked like when they were walking into Costco. And here we have the usual suspect, Al Sharpton, leading this BS. It bothers me so bad. Then he invokes the name of Dr. Martin Luther King, who specifically said he wanted people to be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin, yet they're pushing an initiative that focuses on something other than character and merit. I can't with these people, Jason. I just can't, because we march for anything that we get our emotions wrapped up in, because that's all it is emotionalism. When we look at the fact also that women are the most woke, according to statistics, when we see men whining over woke issues, we know they're bitch made. I didn't say it, the statistics did. So men, if you are letting Al Sharpton and the likes of him get you all wrapped up, you need to check yourself, because you are exhibiting effeminate behavior.
So I saw the tweet or graphic that's floating around social media that had a breakdown of who benefits from DEI. I'm a tiny bit reluctant to comment on it because I wasn't able to do the research of, hey, where'd this information come from? Who did this breakdown? Is there merit to it? Is this some sort of legitimate survey? And so do you know, because I saw it was very popular this weekend, a big graphic on who benefits from DEI. It was quoted the way that you quoted it. Are we 100% sure that's factual information?
Listen, whatever Wilford Riley says, I roll with, because I just feel like he's actually done the research. So this is where I got it from. And it makes sense to me. I even heard Black men saying, hey, we don't benefit from this. And I definitely think it is white women who are, again, always wanting to be equal, always pushing something, that are benefiting the most. And we already know that you have to pretty much be a feminine Black man to move up the ranks really fast. So I just feel like we're getting in on the wrong fight. I don't know if statistics are absolutely right, but everything that I've seen supports this. And again, if Wilford says it, I roll with it.
My gut, my life experience has always led me to believe that single feminist alpha women benefit from DEI. And there are, by numbers, more white women that fit that description. And so by numbers, they're going to benefit. If we went by percentages of single angry feminist women, I think Black women are the leaders in that category. And I've seen a lot of them benefit from DEI. So I see it as a white woman, Black woman, I see it as a white woman, gay person, Black women initiative. That's who benefits. And that's why Al Sharpton threw in there the LGBTQ, because that's real. As a Black man who's on board with DEI, that's really who they're supporting, the LGBTQIA+, because that's where checks come from. That's where, but I thought it was calculated and intentional on his part to throw in the gay thing. And that's what always annoys me. Al Sharpton is part of the brigade that convinces people to think of black as gay, that black and gay is peanut butter and jelly. And for this man to call himself a reverend and a minister, it blows my mind that he could then say, you know, black and gay, that's peanut butter and jelly. And we continue to listen to and throw support and pretend like Al Sharpton has the best interest of Christian black people. He does not. He's part of a movement to take us straight to hell and for us to see ourselves as aligned with every abomination spelled out in the Bible, including same-sex marriage. That's the real ploy here. The Costco thing is a gimmick. To me, it's just another reminder, black and gay. Y'all Peaches and Herb, y'all Sonny and Cher, y'all the Jackson 5, y'all whatever duet is popping, that's us.
Absolutely. This is just like Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition. For years, I had no idea that they were actually also pushing the gay agenda because they package it up as black rights or civil rights. And that's the way they push it out to people. And instead of people taking the time to look at statistics, actually listen to what they're saying, because Al said it out of his mouth. You're right. The LGBTQ. Then he came back around and then said gay. So to me, he said it twice. They're saying this, but we aren't taking the time to listen because we're so wrapped up in our emotions. As soon as you tell black people they aren't free, no matter how free they're living, they then began to say, oh, I'm not free. Oh, freedom is abortion. I'm not free. Let me go have as many abortions as I can. Oh, not having a man in the house is free. Let me make sure I have no man in the house so I can be free. We get wrapped up in these emotional things and don't even take the time to be logical and see that what they're pushing on us are lies. We get jobs. We have the ability to have great grades in school and actually move to the top of the chain, but we continue to buy into this narrative that we are oppressed, we're stupid, we're less than, we can't achieve, and that is no way to teach the generations coming after us. Al Sharpton should be silenced. No one should be following behind him or that boomer generation that hangs on every word that he says. When I have a child who is 19 going to Yale and auditioning at Juilliard for masters, to get her masters, there's no way somebody can get me to believe that our children can't accomplish anything. And to push that, we need to stop it. These kids are capable. They are very capable and able of being great. This is what we want, yet we're holding them back with this type of foolish rhetoric.
Shemeka, thank you. I'm gonna let you go. I got an itchy trigger finger here, or an itchy, I wanna get to my match and light this fire. I'm about to burn up these people supporting Stephen A. Smith. I'm so frustrated and irritated. I gotta let you go. But when I come back, I'm gonna just clear my throat, drink a little bit more of my juice here so that I can deliver this Stephen A. Smith fire starter in the appropriate fashion. We'll do that next. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done.
These words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
The people most impressed with Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN broadcaster moonlighting as a political pundit and prepping for a presidential bid. They're uniparty, establishment Republicans. The people who spent this weekend celebrating Smith's trite criticism of the Democratic Party on Bill Maher's HBO show hope the minute Donald Trump exits office, MAGA becomes bell-bottom jeans and disco, well-remembered fads. In a staged fight with Democrat tomato can Ro Khanna, Smith chastised progressives for turning pronoun use into a crisis, mishandling illegal immigration, failing to address issues voters care about, and installing a bad presidential candidate. Establishment Republicans could not resist sharing and applauding Smith's banal rebuke. The sports pontificator and frequent race baiter trended across social media all day Saturday and half of Sunday. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Here in your state, they can drag their feet and prolong certain things. And as a result of that, things don't get done nearly as fast as they should. When we're talking about immigration and we're talking about immigrants who may be criminals, you're talking about them being arrested. Let's have due process. But if it takes too damn long to address it, that pisses people off. That's one of the problems that exist in this country. You're looking at stuff and you're like, okay, you arrested him. Was he in jail? All right, you let him out. Recidivism is an issue in this country. You let somebody, you arrest them, you're letting them out the same day, stuff like that. You got law enforcement officials that are getting discouraged because they're looking at it and they're saying, wait a minute, why are we out here risking our life and taking care of this stuff when y'all are just letting people out? You got to handle business. And a lot of times we hear about the red tape and all of that stuff, and you're talking about a candidate right now who's not supposed to be the president of the United States now. He's sitting up there and he's talking about expediting the process at every turn. Let's just get stuff done. Let's just get it done. Now, I don't know if I trust that. I don't blame you for not trusting it. But we have to understand the American people are saying, you know what, enough's enough. We've tried it that way. We've been doing it that way for decades. We sick of y'all. Let's wait. Let's go through the process. Let's arrest somebody. Let's let them out. Let's put them back out on the streets. Oh, let's make sure they have due process. You think somebody wants to hear about due process with somebody that's in this country illegally? They want to hear that. You in the country illegally. Hell with your process. Yeah. You got the audacity to admit a crime after you got here illegally? We ain't trying to hear that. Nobody's trying to hear that. So they're saying, wait a minute, what are you going to do about it? Where is the common sense?
So, nearly 3 months after the election, and well after it required an ounce of courage, a black celebrity leftist said what was obvious to anyone with a functioning brain 10 years ago. It doesn't take much to impress and fool a click-hungry establishment Republican. They're really no different from Stephen A. Smith. They lack religious conviction. They support abortion, feminism, and same-sex marriage. They view Trump and MAGA as necessary, temporary evils. They don't want the swamp drained or rid of foreign influence. They want the creatures in the swamp to behave. They want things to return to what they deem normal. They want a president who is willing to be controlled, a president disconnected from his constituents, a commander-in-chief willing to declare war when his generals say so. They want to end Donald Trump as an existential threat to politics as usual. Unable to jail or kill him, the establishment has conceded that populism is having a moment. The seeds that Texas billionaire Ross Perot planted in 1992 have fully blossomed. The establishment can deal with a moment. It cannot allow MAGA to survive past Trump. The goal now is to identify and develop a Trump knockoff who is completely controllable while creating the appearance of uncontrollability. Enter Stephen A. Smith, the Bob Iger and Disney puppet. Smith is running for president. He has been ever since he published his farcical Barack Obama-like memoir, Straight Shooter, in January of 2023. I read the book a year ago. I immediately concluded that someone had convinced Stephen A. Smith he could go from TV star to president just like Donald Trump. The book is filled with tall tales intended to package Smith as a heroic figure who overcame the mean streets of New York to rise as a voice who speaks truth to power. Early in his journalistic career, Smith spoke fondly of his father in interviews. In his book, however, he shreds his dad and champions his mother as the guiding light of his life. It's a hat tip to the matriarchy. Smith's parents never divorced, but Smith paints the picture that he was basically raised by a single black mother. To align himself with Black Lives Matter, Smith told a difficult-to-fathom story about police in Michigan pulling him over and arresting him after he left a Sixers-Pistons basketball game. He said two, unnamed of course, white colleagues were in the car with him. But a woman in Atlanta called police in Michigan and pestered the police into releasing Smith. Make it make sense. It doesn't. Smith recounted a far-fetched story about earning a full-ride basketball scholarship to Winston-Salem State by knocking down 17 straight three-pointers in a special one-day scrimmage the team held for him during the middle of its season. Smith drove from New York City to North Carolina for the scrimmage. He claims his college basketball career ended when he cracked his kneecap in half and doctors installed a 6-inch screw in his knee. He also says the screw is still in his knee. A year ago, you guys remember, I did multiple podcast shows unpacking all of the hard-to-believe anecdotes and stories in Smith's book. The shows triggered Smith into filming a 40-minute profane rant attacking me as the seed of the devil and a piece of shit and the worst human in the history of mankind. Let's take a listen.
From my soul, when I say this is the worst human being I've ever known. I don't know of another human being worse than Jason Whitlock. He is a piece of shit. He's the dude that's gonna have a funeral and ain't gonna be no pallbearers. He's a sorry, fat piece of shit. A no of the worst order. He is the worst human being any of you will ever meet. You get within a mile of his presence. Wrap your arms around yourself to protect your soul.
So here's what Smith never did in all his ranting and raving and cussing and name-calling of me. He never disputed one of my allegations, not one. And he since has quit talking about his college basketball career. Remember the guy he was running around with, Gary Stevens, his former teammate? They went everywhere together. They were posting Instagram posts. Here I am with my Winston-Salem teammate. Here we are here. Here we are there. Oh, my boy Spank, who turned out to be this 5'9" midget that played at Old Westbury in New York and wasn't this 6'3" guy that was briefly mentioned as a member of the Winston-Salem State team. Stephen A. Smith is a fraud. He's one of the biggest frauds I've ever seen in the history of media. He makes Jason Blair, the former New York Times reporter that got exposed as a fraud, he makes that guy look like Ernest Hemingway or Walter Cronkite. I know many of you all think it's personal with me and Stephen A. Smith. It's not personal to the point that I'm ignoring facts and I don't have a point of why I'm trying to educate you all on how people like Stephen A. Smith are used to mislead the public. That's the overall point. It's not a personal thing between me and Stephen A. Smith. He's an example of how you're misled constantly by the media. They install fraudulent people. They prop up fraudulent people. And then they use fraudulent people like Stephen A. Smith eventually in their political pursuit. Stephen A. Smith is the perfect political candidate. He's unconcerned with the truth. He will do and say whatever his financial backers tell him. That's what he's done for Bob Iger and Disney for more than a decade. He's paid to stir racial division among sports fans and stand as controlled opposition to NBA and NFL ownership. When he's not debating on First Take, his ESPN show, he spends his days and nights yapping with Patrick Bet-David, Sean Hannity, Chris Cuomo, Bill Maher, Bill O'Reilly, and anyone else looking for a diverse voice to talk politics. He's uninformed and loud. He pretends to be an outspoken maverick. He's Black John McCain with a jump shot. Or maybe he's Roland Martin with a neck. But we know this, had Kamala Harris won the election, Stephen A. Smith would be hosting kid-friendly drag shows. He voted for Harris because he thought she would win. Since she got defeated, he's ramped up his presidential campaign as the reasonable, tough-talking Democrat. He's Black Donald Trump. No, he's not. He's a plant. Bob Iger and Disney have groomed him as a Manchurian Candidate. I'm leery of anyone who can't see or won't point out the obvious fraudulence of Stephen A. Smith. This is why I reject being a Republican, because I don't believe in a big tent. I'm MAGA, because I believe we live in a time where men have to impose their will. You're not going to reason with an unrepentant Democrat. Smith hasn't repented. He says he feels foolish for voting for Kamala Harris. He's a fool for standing against Donald Trump and MAGA. That's what he is. He's a fool for standing against the patriarchy. He's a fool for supporting the corrupt establishment. Take a listen.
One could argue that Obama resonated more because the people chose him to be the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States of America, as opposed to somebody backdooring their way into that position. Let's just be honest about it. You had Biden. I know that you supported Biden. Obviously, you spoke about his mental acuity and all of that other stuff, but we all saw what we saw. Before the debate on June 27th, when the debate happened, and by the time that was exposed, you then waited 3 weeks after that before he decided to walk away, but it was too late for anybody else to get in. So Kamala Harris, who didn't resonate during the primaries in 2020, couldn't even get to Iowa, suddenly is the Democratic nominee. And then then you roll up at the convention in Chicago, and everybody's like, she's a rock star. So it was like, wait a minute, how that happened? How that happened? I don't know how that happened. So you're looking at all of those things and you're saying, yes, I voted for her. A lot of people voted for her. But in the end, we end up feeling like damn fools because we supported it. We fell for the okie doke, as they say. You know she did. If you had a primary, the likelihood is that she would not have been the Democratic nominee. And you can't say that about Trump in this side. You can't.
Stephen A. Smith didn't fall for the okie doke. Stephen A. Smith took the check and did what he was told. Stephen A. Smith took the check and did what he was told. And the people, from Bill Maher to Patrick Bet-David to Bill O'Reilly, look, some of these guys, Bill O'Reilly, I halfway like and respect, but I'm just looking at him like, why are you helping sell the Stephen A. fraudulence? This fraudulence is so obvious. How can you not see it? I feel like a fool for voting for Kamala Harris. No, you were a fool because you were a man and you weren't man enough to say, hey, look, I got a choice between the patriarchy and the matriarchy. I'm gonna stand with the patriarchy. I got a choice between standing with someone who will challenge the establishment or standing with the establishment. I have a choice between someone who will free pro-life people that have been put in prison for no good reason for some bogus law they created, including Beverly Williams. And not that Beverly Williams is above the other 23 or other 22 people that were free, but Stephen A. Smith loved to talk about how much he supports black women and black people. Beverly Williams is a beautiful black mother with a black husband that was locked up in prison for praying outside of an abortion clinic. You ain't man enough to stand up for her. You gonna stand with the people that put her in prison for praying outside of an abortion clinic where black babies are killed day after day, year after year, thousands of them? Stephen A. Smith makes me sick. And the fact that we are in any way propping this man up and don't recognize the time that we actually live in. And all of us that are celebrating, Trump did this, Trump did that. Oh, look at these first 4, 5, 6 days of what Trump has done. You ain't man enough or woman enough to appropriately thank and celebrate the people that made it possible. Because you don't want to get your hands dirty. You don't want anybody looking crossways at you. Because the people that put Trump in office, the backbone of the entire MAGA movement, is them 1,500 people that Trump released from prison who showed up on January 6th and were willing to impose their will peacefully on these corrupt politicians that are stealing this country from the average American. Them January 6th people, them insurrectionists, them violent rioters, those are national heroes. The establishment can't stand MAGA because it fears the 1,500 men and women Trump pardoned for protesting on January 6th. The patriots who endured 4 years of persecution and imprisonment are the people we should be celebrating, quoting, and embracing. Their loyalty to Trump kept the MAGA movement alive and allowed Trump to win re-election. Gutless frauds like Stephen A. Smith would sleep perfectly fine if those men and women remained incarcerated. My entire 2025 is about making Christians realize the importance of choosing the right allies and empowering the right people. You got idiots like Reverend Al Sharpton convincing you that your allies are the LGBTQIA+ crowd. And idiots like Al Sharpton telling you that the people that just did 4 years standing on their head, holding the Bible, reading the Bible, praying with folks, those are your enemies. Because they went to Washington and told the people that they elected, hey, we don't like the job you're doing. And then government plants and agents in that insurrection crowd, the people the FBI placed to stir up trouble, beat up women and provoke these men into defending these women. I'm not making this up. Nick Searcy and everybody's done documentaries. They've showed you this on video. The mainstream media won't tell you. The truth is out there. Them people were provoked by the police intentionally because they went to Washington, D.C. to get face to face with the corrupt politicians destroying this country and the corrupt politicians who sold out this country to all these foreign countries and all these warmongering people that just want endless war after war after war. Those are heroes. And as Christians, we have to do some soul searching about who are our allies. Are they the atheists? Are they the LGBTQ? Or are they the men and women who sat in prison with their Bibles and dealt with 4 straight years of persecution and torture? This is biblical, what's going on here. This is straight out of the Bible. These people placed in the pit of hell, basically put into a furnace, wouldn't reject God, leaned into God, and came up out of that furnace. This is Biden and Harris, that's Nebuchadnezzar, or however you pronounce his name. My entire 2025 is just, we got to pick better allies. And we got to be smart about this. And we can't let the Al Sharptons of the world and these other lying idiots convince us people that stand against God are our allies. Roll Call 3.0 is about choosing better allies, about choosing the right allies. It's May 2nd and May 3rd. You gotta be here. You gotta be here. Start making the plan. It's going to be amazing. We got great entertainment. Tucker Carlson's gonna be here. We got Pastor Corey Brooks, the rooftop pastor from Chicago, is gonna be. We have to align ourselves with the right allies, people with a pair. That's why Doug Wilson from Moscow, Idaho, he's got a pair. He's gonna be here. All this celebrating of these clowns. Oh, I think he's been red-pilled. Oh, look at what he said. He said Kamala Harris was a bad candidate and he feels like a fool for voting for her. Stephen A. Smith is retarded. And that's why it took him 10 years to figure out what the rest of us knew 10 years ago. Quit celebrating these people. They're up to no good. They've conceded Trump. Well, we couldn't kill Trump. We couldn't put him in jail. Okay, what are we going to do 4 years from now? We're going to convince these people that Stephen A. Smith is an ally and he's someone they should consider. And maybe we can use Stephen A. Smith to siphon off the rhinos that voted for Trump while holding their nose. If you think some of these clowns, the Mitch McConnell types and Lindsey Graham types, wouldn't prefer a business as usual puppet in the White House like a Stephen A. Smith, you're kidding yourself. They want to kill the MAGA movement. They've been trying to kill it, obviously, and they hope it goes away with Trump. And so they're gonna send you some fugazis, some fraudulent people that, oh, that's the reasonable person. Stephen A. Smith isn't reasonable. He's a coward and a fraud. Snap out of it. Not our ally. He's the ally of Bob Iger and Disney and all the other groomers that want your kids to get gender-affirming care. Now, I'm about to show you what an ally really looks like, sounds like, talks like, what an ally is willing to do. Late last week, I believe on Friday, I taped this interview with Jake Lang. Jake Lang did 1,500 days standing on his head in a prison with a Bible and survived that persecution. Jake Lang was they locked him up for 30, 60 days. I can't remember, he'll tell you here in this interview, with some MS-13 gang member. Man whipped out his Bible and converted this man to Jesus Christ and a Christian. That's a real one. That's an ally. That's someone who's been tested in the fire and came out on the other side a free man. That's an ally. Enrique Tarrio, the Proud Boy. I know you don't hear it. I know you can't understand it. That's an ally. I know the media's convinced, oh, the Proud Boys, they're racist. Oh, the Proud Boys ain't none of y'all met no Proud Boys. Ain't no Proud Boy done nothing to you. Ain't seen no Proud Boy. This dude's Cuban. The people killing your babies inside Planned Parenthood clinics, that's the danger. The people telling you that the matriarchy and the government can save you, that's your enemy. These young dudes out here with all this energy that are proud of being Americans, that ain't your enemy. Anyway, we'll play Jake Lang, and that'll be the end of the show. And so enjoy this interview with Jake Lang. I'm going to try to get Jake Lang here to Nashville so we can talk even longer. Jake was driving to Florida to visit some family shortly after getting released from prison when we did this interview, but I think you'll enjoy this 15, 20 minutes of just incredible information of what Jake Lang experienced, his energy. Enjoy the interview. I'll see you tomorrow. The shots being fired my direction.
I should know he ain't really worth this shit.
You're nothing but a puppet and a brown noser.
Society is filled with people on the sidelines taking shots at successful people.
I've had enough of that fat bastard.
So, that's what I do, you coward.
I'll listen to you. If you have any ideas, I'll take them.
I love Jason Whitlock. I respect the hell out of him.
That I'm calling the Gatesville 8. I just don't want this thing between you and Eminem to turn into a Tupac and Biggie.
I'm full-blown MAGA tonight.
I sort of did a joke meme about it, like, hey, you know who else was persecuted right before Easter?
I've never voted, JD, is because I'm just incredibly cynical. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. You guys know that have followed me in this show for a long time. This past election cycle was the first time I've ever voted in 57 years of life. I've always tried to stay above the political fray. I've been a fan and a supporter of Donald Trump since 2015, 2016, but I never voted. I never wanted to vote. This year, or this past election cycle, I felt I had to vote because I was so passionate about wanting the release of the January 6th political prisoners. You guys have seen me interact and interview Sarah McAbee, the wife of Colton McAbee, who was wrongly incarcerated during the January 6th situation. But my defense of the January 6th people actually started on January 6th of 2021. You've seen the article I wrote on January 7th for The Blaze, where I defended the January 6th people and said, hey, let's don't overcook this thing, this whole insurrection, these are the worst people on the planet, it's all overdone. These are patriots. I was saying that on January 6th. I was defending them publicly on January 7th. And so I voted this year because I thought Donald Trump would pardon the January 6th political prisoners. He's done that. It's been amazing. The first 5-6 days of the Trump presidency have been amazing because the man is actually delivering on what he said. And so when Jake Lang, who we're about to bring on here, when he was released from prison, I saw a video that he posted on his social media feed, and it was so filled with reverence for, celebration of Jesus Christ. It brought tears to my eyes. I could only imagine what these guys have been through, but through that persecution and struggle, to see these guys get closer to God, it just overwhelmed me. And so I wanted to bring on Jake Lang. I think Jake did nearly 1,300 days locked up with no trial, locked up for 1,300 days and pardoned by Donald Trump. Jake Lang, welcome to Fearless, and thank you so much for granting us some of your time. Where are you headed, to Disney World or Mar-a-Lago?
You must have heard the video. Yeah, we are actually very close to Mar-a-Lago. We will be there on February 18th for a welcome home event with General Flynn and his organization there. And so that's a blessing. But right now I'm heading to Key West actually for a little R&R.
Jake, I was just reading, just getting in the mood for this interview. I was reading your pinned post on X where you talked about a raid that you went through, I believe in October, and how you were treated while incarcerated and how they tried to break you down. Tell us about those, what is it? Was it 1,300 days? Tell us about those days in prison, what you went through, and what kept you strong.
Well, the power of God to sustain human beings during their struggles is what the Bible is all about, right? And even Jesus's struggle in the tomb that could not hold him back, he overcame that. And so I was able to pull from the heavens spiritual power in my heart that got me through that. And what you saw there, that prayer that day, was because they had been so egregious in the Brooklyn MDC lockup, throwing me in solitary confinement for speaking out, for doing interviews just like this. Now that I'm a free man, I can exercise my First Amendment right. But while I was being held by the deep state regime, they were trouncing me. I did over 900 days solitary confinement, Jason. It was unbelievable. And so, from prison to prison, they would move me, and then I would figure out how to get my voice out there to keep on advocating for the Jan Sixers, and then they would throw me back in solitary. And the only voice you have left, and many people don't know this, when you're in prison and they take your phone from you and your ability to, talk to the American people, is you have to starve your own body. And so I did a 13-day hunger strike in order to get back onto general population, because when you have no voice, you have to use your body and your suffering and let the prison administration know that you're willing to die for your First Amendment rights. And so that raid had basically culminated in an end. When they took me to solitary confinement after that, I had to hunger strike to get my way out.
Jake, what did the state say you did, and what did you do?
Well, the deep state had told me that I was a violent insurrectionist, that I was a traitor to my own country for standing up against a stolen election at the United States Capitol, January 6, 2021. Me and a million other brave Americans showed up with love of God in our hearts, with singing hymns, praying, for the Holy Spirit to pour out a blessing upon our country, for our congressmen and women to be emboldened by the American people standing outside redressing a grievance, to send the election back to the electors, the state legislators, to recount the votes. It was obviously stolen. There's 0% chance Joe Biden got 83 million votes running a corpse's campaign. And so they had told me that because I defended my life and the lives of the people around me, these great American heroes that are now known as the Jan Sixers, but at that day we were just a bunch of peaceful protesters. We had no idea what God had in store for us. When the Capitol Police attacked us and they murdered Roseanne Boylan, which is a name that maybe a lot of your audience members don't know, that was the second woman, unarmed woman, to die at the Capitol that day from Capitol Police violence. She was trampled to death. She was asphyxiated with chemical weapons. She was doused with pepper spray and CS gas and tear gas. And then she was beaten while she was on the ground by Officer Lila Morris. And by the way, if your audience hasn't heard the interview you did with Sarah McAfee, I'm sure this has come up because Colt, we call him Ron responded to Roseanne Boylan's, she was lifeless. He tried to do CPR on her. And before Ron had gotten to her and was doing CPR, I had my hands on her trying to lift her up out of that human dog pile. And when I was responding to her, the Capitol Police were still doing this onslaught, pushing more people on top of her. And every time I grabbed somebody off of her, they pushed another human being, pulled them down on top of Roseanne. And so after, 5 minutes after that occurred, I realized the men in the area must stand up. We must defend the rest of the women and elderly around there. And so in that defensive stance that I made, I accumulated a number of alleged assault charges that I never was able to defend myself in courtroom for, with a self-defense, argument in defense of a third person, which are legally justifiable and admissible arguments in a courtroom. Of course, if you're in a bar fight, God forbid, and you're not the guy that throws the first punch, you're defending yourself and you're not culpable for an assault because you're in a defensive scenario. It's the same thing even if a police officer unjustly attacks you. And so after the DOJ and FBI decided to spin up and drum up a bunch of charges on me and all the Jan 6ers, they unleashed an onslaught of the FBI Gestapo upon our households and dragged us out and kidnapped us and threw us in the gulags. And there I remained, actually, the correct number is 1,467 days. 4 years and 6 days in the gulag without a trial, being tortured in solitary confinement and without a shave or haircut. It was incredible. What we went through as Americans just a couple miles from the United States Capitol is unspeakable. But we must speak about it because we cannot allow it to ever happen again.
So the critics will hear that and say, this guy, he fought with police. He was violent with police. People that watch this show have seen me engage with Nick Searcy, the actor, who's a great friend of the show, friend of mine. He and Sarah Maccabee. People are unaware that the police did triggering things. So you're a man. Colton Maccabee is a man. You see a woman being harmed. You see a woman being killed or in the process of being killed. That's going to trigger any red-blooded man that's worth anything. And he's going to push back and try to stop that. And people don't understand it because obviously the mainstream media won't tell them, but they won't say what the police intentionally did first to trigger the actions of this so-called mob. And so, and then for me, the thing, for people to be sitting in jail for that long, untried, it just made no sense. And now I'm listening to people say, like, you guys suffered no consequences for what they accused you of. 4 years in jail? 900 days in solitary confinement? No consequences?
Regular everyday jail as well. Sorry, I don't. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I said we're not just talking about regular everyday jail as well. We had a target on our back by the administration of the D.C. Gulag and other federal prisons. They had direct orders from the U.S. Prosecutor's Office and from the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We were labeled as domestic terrorists. So we were put in housing situations. Like, for example, when I got thrown in solitary confinement for doing some interviews, they put me in a cell with an MS-13 gang member because he was also labeled a domestic terrorist. And I spent 40 days in a cell with a man that had murdered multiple human beings. And well, by the grace of God, we ended up doing Bible study every day together. I put God first in that relationship, and God kept me safe in that scenario. But he hated Donald Trump. You know why? Because he knew that him and his buddies were going to be on the chopping block for their crimes, not under Kamala Harris. She was going to give it, be light on them. But Donald Trump was going to start deporting, other gang members and his family, and that were illegally here, like he was, and going to hold him accountable for his crimes. But we had fellowship in the Lord, and the last night I was there, he was praying for the first time I ever saw him on his knees, like 3 a.m, and that was a blessing. To be able to at least be able to influence this man's life who's going to be there for the rest of his life. if not on the death penalty. And so this is the kind of compromising situations. They tried to kill me because they knew it was election season. It was literally a month before the election. Donald Trump was running on a platform of stopping, the Trinitarios gang that took over the apartment complex in Colorado and putting an end to MS-13 terror. And so this man knew that mine and his politics, either my life was going to be saved by President Trump as a righteous man. We're all sinners in God's eyes, but as a righteous man who stood up for a righteous cause compared to an MS-13 gang member who had brutally murdered multiple Americans, that was probably going to be given a sweetheart deal by Kamala Harris's DOJ. And so that's what was at stake in 2024. Either the Jan Sixers go home as free men, or the continuation of an absolute upside down clown world justice system where the brutal and the anti-American, the American-hating immigrants are rewarded, and the patriots who are born and raised in this country to defend it are destroyed. But that didn't happen by God's grace.
You talk about this MS-13 gang member and how you were able to get along, make peace with him. Overall, how did the prisoners not related to January 6th, the other prisoners, how did they treat you and others?
Well, we became kind of like folk heroes, honestly, because we represented like a resistance to the federal government, the same federal government that was persecuting them, right? A lot of these men had felt that they were being given unjust trials, that the prosecutors were conjuring up charges on them. And, a lot of them committed crimes, but a lot of people, this federal criminal justice system is really broken. The prosecutors are basically incentivized not for justice, but to just get conviction after conviction. And one of the things they did to us, for example, the Jan Sixers, that they do to other prisoners, is they weaponized the law code. And they charged all the Jan Sixers, like 400 of us, and Donald Trump, with the 1512 obstruction of Congress charge. And what that is a 20-year felony charge that is very loosely written, and they overbroadly applied it. They used it as a bludgeoning tool, honestly, to crush Americans into submission, to take plea deals they did not want to take, or they shouldn't have taken. And you know why? Because we beat them in Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturned that charge, but not before 400 Americans had taken a plea deal for years in prison to that very charge. And so that's what these other prisoners were also experiencing. The prosecutors will stack charges on you, say, hey, look, you're going to either do 20 or 30 years in prison, or you can take a 3 or 4 year plea deal today. And so with a high conviction rate, basically they just slammed people through the system, and they did it to January Sixers too.
Jake, I'm going to ask you one more question, try to let you go. Looks like I want you to enjoy Florida. But you also talked about how, weren't they moving you guys around prison to prison just to make things more unstable for you and put you in a new environment? And then even just transport. I read somewhere where guys were getting transported, and it may take 20 hours or more for them to get transported somewhere. And they're in these box handcuffs for 20 straight hours. There's all different kinds of ways of torturing and punishing people that they seem to have used against you guys.
Yeah, that's called diesel therapy, Jason. It's a psychological warfare tactic that you'll use. It's literally actually for POWs. So, in POW prison camps, what you do is you move a prisoner around to different areas, and where you keep the lights off, right? You keep them psychologically unmoored, not able to stabilize themselves, not able to really understand where they are and how long they'll be there, when their next meal is, and stuff like that. And so all that's an effort, again, like I said, to grind down a man's conviction and to make them break. It's a spiritual warfare. I mean, we're talking about evil people that do not have the Spirit of the Lord, of course, against those who are blessed with God's grace. And so they're trying with all these different tactics to try to make you break, because when they make you break is really when they win. Not forgetting, they got 4 years of my life, but they never made me break. And so they never won over me. And the whole entire goal was to try to get patriots, real red-blooded American men who stood up for, our constitutional republic and free and fair elections to break. And when they saw that they couldn't break the Jan 6ers, that's when God, he put us through the test. That's when God opened up the floodgates for us and created such an amazing biblical response. I mean, this was like Moses parting the Red Sea. This was something, a tangibility of the 1,467 nights that I was on my knees in that prayer and in that prison praying. That was like when God delivered us, it was like something that actually the difference between water that's just in the air and the rain that falls down, right? The prayers were answered. People have a real visceral understanding that prayers work and that God can deliver his people. And that's what January 6th was to me when I was pardoned and set free.
Jay,
I'm going to give you guys
reuniting
me with my uncle right now.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Oh, God is good. Yeah, man. That's my Uncle Jeff right there. I haven't seen him in 4 years, maybe a little longer. Good to see you, brother. Love you. Love you. Oh, God is
Jay,
good, guys. Look at that.
Enjoy your time in Florida. You're a real hero. You're going to go down in history. All you guys are going to go down in history. You're the new Paul Revere's. You're the new Crispus Attucks. You guys made some incredible sacrifices for the rest of us. Glad you're home. Glad you're closer to God. Can't wait for some of you guys to start running for office because I'm now a voter and I'll now be supported. We need guys like you in office who've stood the test, who's taken the test, and we know where you stand unequivocally. Thank you so much, Jake.
Hey, Jason, I promised my team I wouldn't break this type of news informally, but there's a certain U.S. senator that is going to be leaving office as Secretary of State in the very state I'm in, and there's an open senatorial seat, and there's a couple Jan 6ers that are looking at it, and I just might be one of them.
Awesome. Awesome. Wish you luck in that. Look for my name in your campaign funds. That's Jake Lang, one of the heroes from January 6th, now a free man, thanks to our president, Donald Trump. Man, only thing I feel better about than the January 6ers, and I feel really, really good, is then Trump turns around and releases the pro-life people that got locked up under this FACE Act or whatever, including this woman, Beverly Williams. Been great. That's all I got for now. We'll see you next time.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free.